Recording, please. So thank you everybody for joining this call today. My name is Nayara Costa. I work for UNDESA, the United Nations Department for Economic and Social Development, Economic and Social Affairs. And we thank all participants for joining this webinar. We hope that you are healthy and safe and in the best spirits facing this global challenge. We are expecting a big crowd today, so we will be counting on your collaboration in keeping yourself with the microphones muted and the cameras off all the time, unless, of course, you are one of our speakers. This call will be recorded, and the link to the recording, as well as the PowerPoint presentation, will be shared soon with all those who registered to attend the call. And we'll also be posting the outcomes of this call at the 2020 UN Ocean Conference website. So I still see that we have participants with cameras off. So this is the moment, if you are not one of the speakers, that I'll be asking you to click on your cameras and turn them off. They need to show in red. When you stop sharing your video, it will show red. If you are seeing yourself, this means your camera is on and that we can see you. We will also be turning cameras off during the call. The same for microphones. If you are not speaking, or if you are given the floor and you speak, you can turn your microphone off as well. If you see blue waves coming out of near your name, this is not. I know it's the Ocean webinar, but this means your microphone is on. So please, for WebEx, the microphone's icon needs to be shown in red. So this is how you see if it's off, on or off. If you have questions, comments, suggestions, please do use the chat box as well. And please make sure to put your name, organization, and where you are from. And we will also be live tweeting, and we invite you to do so using the hashtag #SaveOurOcean. And you can also tag us on Twitter using @SustDev. You can see this also on the screen. So you see that we will be starting with some welcoming remarks, followed by a keynote message from the United Nations Special Envoy on Ocean. And the webinar will have 2 sessions, including interventions from some inspiring ocean youth advocates, and a second session, which will be an interactive session with youth representatives from different parts of the world. Those youth were selected among those registered to attend this webinar. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mrs. Lotta Tahtinen, Chief of the Outreach and Partnerships Branch of the Division for Sustainable Development Go at UNDESA, to deliver some welcoming remarks on behalf of DESA. Lotta will also be introducing the next 3 speakers. Thank you, Lotta, over to you.
Thank you, colleagues, Nayara, and thank you to all of you for joining this first in a series of webinars on keeping the momentum for ocean action. The focus of today's discussion will, of course, be on youth participation and engagement in the 2020 Ocean Conference process. Although the conference has been postponed because of the ongoing COVID-19 crisis, the preparations are continuing under the leadership of the 2 co-hosts, Kenya and Portugal, and we are very honored to have both represented today with us. In preparation for the Ocean Conference, our department, the UN Department of Economic and Social Affairs, or UNDESA, has been promoting a series of activities, including online consultations and open webinars, to bring perspectives from all the different types of stakeholders from different regions around the world. With the aim of keeping the momentum towards ocean action, we are working with other partners to organize a series of webinars over the coming weeks to connect, mobilize, and bring new ideas from key stakeholder sectors towards the preparation and outreach of the Ocean Conference, including compilation of new commitments of ocean action by all. I want to acknowledge in particular our partners who are helping to organize this youth-focused webinar, and they include, of course, the Office of the Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, the United Nations Non-Governmental Liaison Service, the Major Group for Children and Youth, and the Sustainable Ocean Alliance. We're also very delighted to have Ambassador Peter Thompson, who is the United Nations Secretary General's Special Envoy on Oceans, to join us as our keynote speaker. As Nayara mentioned earlier, this webinar will include a session where we can hear from young leaders on a set of questions related to youth mobilization towards SDG 14 implementation. There will be another session which will include interventions from a series of youth from different parts of the world, who will also share their ideas and recommendations on how to keep the momentum for ocean action and Ocean Conference. We are very grateful to the almost 1,000 registered participants from over 110 countries. And we're particularly pleased that almost half of the participants, about 50%, are less than 28 years old, which means that we have a great amount of youth in our audience, which is exactly what we had hoped for today. As was mentioned, we will be preparing a summary of this webinar and making it available online to all interested. Without any further ado, let me now invite Ambassador Duarte Lopes, who's the permanent representative of Portugal to the United Nations, to make his welcoming remarks. Ambassador, over to you.
Thank you very much, Lotte. I hope you are all listening to me.
Yes, Ambassador, we can hear you very well.
Good, thank you very much. Well, first of all, I would like to thank UNDEF colleagues for organizing this webinar and commending them, as well as Special Envoy Peter Thompson and all those participating today. It is absolutely necessary to keep the momentum, as you said, Lotte, and to keep the ocean high on the agenda, despite the current very difficult circumstances. So I thank you all for that. You all know this, but let me nevertheless reiterate, both Portugal and Kenya remain fully committed to ocean action and to working with youth in that regard. And our two countries' commitment to co-host the UN Ocean Conference and to make it a transformative moment for the ocean remains unchanged. We are fully committed as we were before this pandemic arrived. And as Ambassador Lázaro Zamayo, my colleague and friend from Kenya, said recently, and I start quoting, the UN Ocean Conference was postponed, but the ocean's problems were not. End quoting. And I think he really hit the central point here. And I had from my side that precisely because of the postponement, the need for us to come together, to reflect together, and to act together is now even stronger. Our goal is to make the UN Ocean Conference a platform to scale up ocean action based on science and innovation. Our goal is also to make the conference as inclusive as possible, including by making sure that youth representatives are not only part of the discussion, but also, and more importantly, are part of the solutions designed for the future. As you know, and besides the participation of youth in the conference itself, we are planning, together with the Sustainable Ocean Alliance, with SOA, a youth forum on the weekend prior to the conference, where ideas could be discussed and concrete solutions could be showcased, and youth representatives could team up and develop a narrative for the ocean of tomorrow. And I can also assure you that Kenya and Portugal remain committed to making sure that this youth forum goes ahead back to back with the UN Ocean Conference in Lisbon. Again, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to intervene today. And most importantly, I thank all the participants for their enthusiasm and their commitment. We look forward to continuing our common and productive work ahead of the UN Ocean Conference and beyond. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And let me now invite Ambassador Lazaro Soamayo, who is the permanent representative of Kenya to the United Nations, to make his welcoming remarks. Over to you, Ambassador.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Oh, I'm happy you can hear me. Thank you, Lotam. Ambassador Francisco Lopez, PR of Portugal, Ambassador Peter Thompson, UN Secretary General Special Envoy for the Ocean, UN DESA, Excellencies, our youth representatives, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, but may I also take this opportunity to sincerely thank UN DESA and the organizers for this important and timely webinar as we strive to keep the momentum at an all-time high for our valuable oceans. Despite the postponement of the Ocean Conference, which Portugal and Kenya were scheduled to host from 2nd to 6th of June, I'd like to reassure you that as co-hosts, we will continue to keep discussions and actions towards mobilization for the conference very high on the agenda, as it is critical that we do not lose sight of this significant meeting. We are therefore pleased with these and future webinars which will allow us to exactly do that. Excellencies, the youth are indeed significant partners in the conversation around oceans, especially because our actions now will determine whether future generations will reap the beauty and benefits from our oceans as we have and continue to enjoy. Intergenerational efforts towards sustainable production and conservation of our oceans and seas is therefore extremely important. This is why, as co-hosts, we saw great significance in incorporating a youth forum during the conference, and I'm pleased to inform you that Kenya has raised awareness on this Ocean Youth Forum through various ministries and agencies that work directly with innovative youth in ocean conservation. Through these partners, entrepreneurial youth in the blue economy were invited to submit their ongoing projects for assessment. In this regard, the youth with the best projects will earn a chance to showcase their projects at the Ocean Youth Conference in Lisbon. So far, we have received over 25 applications from various youth across Kenya, all with creative solutions towards ocean problems. From the numerous youth applications we have received, it is clear that our youth are committed to ensuring a different future for oceans. Kenya is well aware of the important role that the youth play in ocean conservation. One of our most recognized projects, Mikoko Pamoja Kenya, is the first community-based project of its kind in the world to successfully trade mangrove carbon credits. It is worth noting that this is a youth-led project. That is why we are working hand in hand with the government of Portugal and the Sustainable Ocean Alliance to ensure that youth from all over the world are represented at the Ocean Youth Forum. We commend the efforts made in mobilizing participation for the conference, including the Sustainable Ocean Alliance that has worked hard to fundraise and ensure that youth participates at this important and significant forum. And in conclusion, in our effort to keep up the momentum, we must not forget that there are many youth who work in ocean conservation who lack access to the internet and therefore to webinars of this kind, especially in some parts of the developing world. Efforts, of course, to support such systems would be important so that as many as possible gain access and contribute towards the conservation of the ocean. I thank you for your attention.
Ambassador, thank you so much for those remarks. And now let me give the floor to Ambassador Peter Thompson, who is the United Nations Secretary General Special Envoy on Oceans, to deliver his keynote address. Over to you, Ambassador.
Hi, sound check. Lotta, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, Ambassador.
Okay, great. Firstly, just to thank the ambassadors of Portugal and Kenya for taking the time to be with us. Great to see them and hear their voices. Also great to be sharing this time with friends and colleagues and young people from around the world. I'm presuming that because you've signed into this webinar that you're all part of the Ocean Action community. So welcome, friends. We are amongst friends in what we discussed today. I also want to thank Bessa, a great job in pulling together all this series of webinars. I won't repeat what's been said about the postponement of the Lisbon conference, but I did want to say that while it's true that the super year has been disrupted, on all our major environmental conferences in 2020 have been postponed, these conferences will definitely be held as soon as conditions allow. We're going to gather them in real and virtual format to deliberate. But why? We're going to do that because we remain resolutely committed to finding a sustainable way of life on this planet. And we have a responsibility to maintain the momentum in the meantime and endeavor to meet all the targets that have been set in these international agreements. And I refer...
Apologies, Ambassador. We are identifying some background noise. We'll just...
That's okay.
Yeah, we are checking.
Yeah. So anyway, we do have this responsibility to maintain momentum, and we're required to endeavor to meet the targets that have been set by international agreement. And, I'm referring here to the Paris Agreement, of course, and to the Sustainable Development Goals. And in our case, here in the ocean community, SDG 14, the ocean goal which sets out to conserve and sustainably use resources of the ocean. So we've got to keep the momentum, and that's why we're in this webinar. And we've got things like the UN Ocean Conference register of voluntary commitments, which are continuing to fill up. And I do urge all of you that if you haven't put in a commitment onto that register, feel welcome to do so. Just go to the UN Ocean Conference website, and you'll see how to do so. All are welcome. So, dear colleagues, I don't need to go into with you because you are members of this ocean community, the importance of our subject of ocean action. We all know the statistics, and we all know that it's all too easy for the ocean concerns to slip off the table when people are worried about other things. And yet the intricate link between the ocean and climate change and biodiversity means that it absolutely has a critical role in the future security of humanity. Now, I think you've heard me say before about the sustainable blue economy, that I have complete faith in it, that it'll provide my grandchildren with the food that they need, the health that they need in the post-antibiotic age, and all the renewable energy that they need as we go forward. But we have to respect the ocean. It can't do all those things for us if we continue to pollute it and to damage it in the way that we are at the moment. So that's why we're active. That's why we've got to turn things around in our time so that future generations will not be facing a destroyed ocean. Let me cut to what I want to say about the recovery from the blue-green, the recovery from the COVID pandemic. You might have heard me speaking in other formats on this, but basically, if you go back to 2018 and that special report on global warming from the IPCC that told us that limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees would require rapid, far-reaching, and unprecedented changes in all aspects of society. Now, back then, achieving an unprecedented change in the short term may have seemed like a tall order, but that's not so today. And while pandemics are not the prescription for mitigating climate change, they do demonstrate the possibilities. So in the midst of this pandemic, our chief responsibility lies in pursuit of the common good, obviously, and caring for those around us. But the road to recovery lies ahead, and we can see the glimmer at the end of the tunnel already. And when we get out of that tunnel, we have to take the high road, the blue-green recovery road. We can't take that low road that's just going to take us back through fossil fuels and the convenience of old ways. It's just going to take us back to the tunnel that we went into with this pandemic in the first place. We have to take the blue-green road to recovery that's going to take our kind and those who follow us to a sustainable way of life on this planet. So, folks, as we approach the recovery period, please, whatever influence you have, I'm using all that I have. Put the emphasis on the blue-green recovery. And, young people have a huge role to play in this because you have to demand your future and you have to create your future. And that's a political task. You've played an essential role in addressing the challenges of climate change. And I'm sure you can have huge influence on the investment decisions that are going to have to be made now on how public funds are spent so that we head towards a clean green transition rather than going back to the old dirty ways. The blue-green recovery has got faith in the genius of our species, and that's particularly young people to find the solutions that we need. And I have every confidence that you young people will be able to do that. And certainly those old grey heads like me are there in your ranks and pushing for this. So my final words would be that never forget that it's global warming greenhouse gas emissions that are our common enemy. Whether you're from the biodiversity community or the ocean community, it's our greenhouse gas emissions that are acidifying and deoxygenating and warming the ocean, causing the death of coral and all the damage like rising sea levels. So don't take your focus off that, folks. We have the climate change coming up in Glasgow sometime, I believe, next year. And we must expect nations to come with greatly enhanced national commitments to lower their greenhouse gas emissions. That's the way we're going to save life in the ocean. So with that, folks, I'm really looking forward to the discussions in this webinar. I will remain for the duration of it and look forward to participating. So remember that without a healthy ocean, we can't have a healthy planet and the future that we want. So we're fighting for the right cause here. Thank you very much, Lotta.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you very much for those remarks. Colleagues, if I can please remind everyone, if you're not speaking, to keep your microphones muted at all times. We do keep hearing some background interference. Let me thank the three ambassadors for taking time to be with us this morning. And now let me give the floor to my colleague Nayara, who will lead you through the rest of this webinar. Over to you, Nayara.
Thank you very much, Lotta. And thanks for reminding participants to keep microphones and cameras off if you are not one of the speakers of that session. So it's my pleasure now to hand over the moderation of the session. We'll start the session mobilizing youth towards ocean action, forward-looking perspectives. I'm giving the floor to Kev Chris. Kevin, over to you to invite our speakers. I'll just make a point to ask colleagues to be brief, as we also have a session later on with several interventions from participants. So, Kevin, over to you.
Thank you so much, Naira. We're moving forward to the youth session on good ways to mobilize youth towards ocean action. And we'll be addressing 3 core questions: how young people are currently mobilizing to support the Goal 14 implementation, especially with the current impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, and also what will be good ways or good strategies to engage youth ahead of the Ocean Conference. And finally, how can we mobilize ocean action commitments from youth organizations and networks and groups ahead of the UN Ocean Conference? We have 4 speakers, and I would like to introduce them. We have Emma Camp, who is a research scientist with the University of Technology, Sydney, and she has been actively engaged in the science policy interface. So please, over to you, Emma Camp.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes, we can, Emma.
Yes, great, thank you. Yes, to begin with, I want to thank the UN and also the governments of Kenya and Portugal for acknowledging that youth obviously have got a crucial role to play ahead, during and also after the Ocean Conference. And I think obviously our current global situation with COVID-19 is a stark reminder that human health is inextricably linked to the health of the environment and also obviously of the ocean. So in thinking about the 3 questions that we've kind of been asked to think about, I firstly wanted to, just from my own experiences, discuss some of the kind of leadership and engagement that I've seen from youth in the ocean field, and particularly to emphasize that it's not just taking part, but it is a leadership role. So we are seeing youth that are actively engaged in politics, engaged in their local communities and advocating change. Myself, I'm a marine biologist working on coral reefs and the impact that climate change is having. And we've been working with tour operators and other stakeholders to try to look for natural resilience around the reef, but also to engage youth more broadly in the issues of ocean acidification and coral bleaching. I think sort of two areas that I really wanted to highlight that I've seen where youth have been really effective is one in local action. We've seen an increase in Sydney, in the area where I'm at, in terms of things like beach cleanups, but actually in taking it a step further in terms of the science behind, for example, the plastics that are being collected and going back to the source of where that's come from and actually trying to ensure that a change happens. So we're moving beyond just the care for the environment, but trying to ensure that the source of the problem is actually being resolved. And then with the COVID-19 situation, obviously we've had many challenges brought about with that, but actually a lot of opportunities as well. So for example, people's times have changed and people have got potentially more free time. And we've seen within our network a lot of people using their skills to put to good use. So some examples have been some IT specialists that I know have volunteered their time to actually improve websites for non-profits for the ocean, come up with some new apps to try to link people together that want to work for the ocean. So again, I feel that the COVID situation, although awful, gives us some unique opportunities to work together. When thinking of then the other 2 questions in terms of how we can engage and ensure that we have meaningful sort of involvement ahead of the Ocean Conference, the first thing I really wanted to highlight for me was that I think a part that's missing from those questions is that actually we have to showcase the strategies that are already being done. So yes, we need to engage youth, and we need to ensure commitment. But I think it's really important to showcase the efforts that are already being done. This can help to facilitate and enhance the actions that are already being done, but also provide role models within the youth environment. So actually having youth from local areas or different demographics that people can relate to. And there's so much great work out there that I think finding platforms that the UN can use to actually showcase that is great. One example that has worked well I've seen has been the hashtag Eye on Climate campaign that the UN Foundation ran. And so perhaps having a hashtag Eye on the Ocean campaign or something like that could be a way that we could showcase the work of a lot of the youth ahead of and leading up to the Ocean conference. And then in terms of sort of engagement more broadly is also to think about sort of the resources and mechanisms that actually are in place to ensure that we have meaningful engagement and move beyond just tokenism. And I think for that to be successful, there's two parts. One is thinking about how we can access communities that don't necessarily have the access to the technology. So much of our engagement is focused around social media, which is, I think, a great way to connect with youth, and something that I think leading up to the Ocean Conference will be really important to keep momentum. But how do we access the communities that don't have that technology? So I think that's an area that I hope that we can continue to discuss leading up to the conference. And I think the thing that I just wanted to end on was that things like Reboot the Ocean, where you've actually got a clear resource, you've got the resources, you've got the mechanism, you've got the actions. They're the sorts of activities that I think really can engage and mobilize youth and also youth organisations. And I wonder, given that one's very technology focused, if there's opportunities, for example, for something similar that considers, say, arts or communication, so another kind of platform to help get the message out there, but that has the full support of the UN and mechanisms that are going ahead. And thank you for your time, and I look forward to hearing from the other speakers. Thank you.
Thank you so much for those exciting contributions. We have Stina Bagge, who is a lawyer from Sweden, specializing in international environmental law and law of the sea. She's also a global focal point of the UNMGCY Ocean Group. You know, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, and let me start by thanking the other organizations as well as the participants today for showing your support for the ocean and the engagement. And the COVID-19 pandemic is, of course, a global crisis on its own, and there's no other way to put it, really. However, I think it's necessary to look beyond the urgency of the current moment in order to predict and hopefully prevent another crisis. And as most of us here know, that without a healthy ocean and a well-functioning marine ecosystem process, we may well be seeing an ocean version of the pandemic, not in more than a few years' time. And actually, this pandemic is already looming over us with rising sea levels, ocean acidification, loss of marine biodiversity, and so on. And this is all signs that what's to come, unless our behavior radically changes, according to the IPCC report on oceans and the crisis. So the COVID-19 pandemic should not, and it will not, be an excuse for not speeding up SG 14 implementation. And I think using positive thinking, it can actually be seen as an opportunity for thinking outside the box. Because now when we can't or shouldn't meet in person, youth are mobilizing more than ever using the internet in order to have video chats, to brainstorm different ocean solutions, policy blueprints, and action ideas. And we arrange educational webinars and discussion just like this one and find new partners to work with. And so a way to look at it is that it's an extraordinary opportunity to prove that online meetings can be just as effective as those where people are flying all over the globe to attend. And it's extremely important that words transform into action, and youth-led action on oceans need to happen both at the local and global level, for example, by creating ocean online challenges and follow-ups such as the beach and ocean cleanups. And good strategies to engage youth in the lead up to the Ocean Conference. I think it's crucial that world leaders acknowledge that young ocean supporters and activists are key drivers for change. And so it's of the utmost importance that the potential of the youth movement is harnessed, and strategies to engage youth in the lead up to the Ocean Conference could include webinars like this one, when young voices are being heard and given a chance to influence and form substance of the conference, and also discussions on how youth can be included both during and after it. So it's really encouraging to hear how the ambassadors are really pointing out the importance of youth, and that there's already discussions on plans on how to engage youth in the Ocean Conference. This strategy has to be transparent as well, and it shouldn't just mean one or two invitations to ocean youth NGOs to brainstorm ideas prior to the conference, but it needs a proper timeline where youth established self-organized mechanisms such as the UN and GCY can participate. And we haven't worked on developing principles for meaningful youth engagements, and really appreciate the UNDESA's efforts to support this active participation. And in order to make the ocean a mainstream issue, just as the climate has become this massive issue and topic that a lot of young people engage in now, the community needs to grow, and we need to continue to raise awareness, promote marine literacy and citizen engagements, and ways to contextualize and localize these global challenges. And one way, again, to do this is through these intergenerational webinars, where we bring together young ocean activists, professionals, and UN organs. And we also need to make clear that every ocean action commitment counts, and it's important. And sometimes I feel like it's unclear what is expected from youth organizations when it comes to ocean actions. What more can be done than just beach cleanups? And just like Emma said, we need to go back to the source, and we need to promote ocean education. I think that's really key to learn what the ocean needs and what the source of the problem is. And we need to mobilize ocean youth organization commitments by pushing for it on social media channels, sharing ideas or actions, and really encouraging collaboration and discussions between organizations and UN organs. So just to round up, I really look forward to many more future discussions like this one, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Tina, for that important contribution. Next, we have Ron Tardif, who is a program associate at Sustainable Ocean Alliance, and for about 7 years, he has worked and managed issues around fisheries, governance, and marine education. Please, Ron, you have the floor.
Ron, you are muted.
Thank you, Naira, and thanks, Kewe. Thank you and good morning, Excellencies, colleagues, and fellow young people who are joining from all around the world. I'm Ron, and I work with the Sustainable Ocean Alliance, which is the largest network of young ocean leaders in the world. I'd like to start by giving a sincere thanks to UNDESA for organizing this timely series on keeping the momentum for ocean action, to the partners that have worked with us to develop the program for today's webinar, and particularly to their Excellencies, the ambassadors, for their kind words and their continued support for youth engagement in this process. I would also like to note our particular gratitude to the organizers for choosing to launch this series with the youth webinar. At SOA, we have the daily privilege of connecting with young people around the world, working to save our ocean. Among them are entrepreneurs, activists, young professionals, and students. Many of them are on this call today. At SOA, while our community has been largely homebound since the start of this pandemic, we've seen a tremendous amount of energy, just like Sina said, directed towards community engagement online. We've had young people join community calls and engage deeply on the tough questions about how this pandemic affects their work and their ability to work. We've seen our young ocean leaders in Latin America, Indonesia, Malaysia, and Portuguese-speaking countries start webinar series, attracting hundreds of youth at a time. Likewise, in the past 3 months alone, we've had young ocean leaders in nearly a dozen countries start laying the groundwork to develop ocean solutions hubs in their regions. This interest in community building has inspired us to start a new program called SOA Connects. It's an opportunity for ocean solutionists, as we call them, to come together, share their solutions, and find new connections. The first SOA Connects event will be a virtual one taking place on June 2nd. But we also have plans for SOA Connects events around the world when the global situation improves. I'm also inspired by youth groups like Lidera in Portugal, who have attracted thousands of signatures and a meeting with the Portuguese Minister of Environment over their letter demanding a sustainable recovery post-COVID. So I'm pretty optimistic that while the in-person action may be temporarily suspended, young people are very active in community building, cross-pollinating ideas, holding governments to account, and getting ready to dive back into action. With regards to the UN Ocean Conference, I think there's many ways we can engage and energize youth, and one upside of the pandemic is that we have a lot more time to do that. I think that the UN process can sometimes be a bit unapproachable for many youth. And there are those like us sitting here today that maybe know a lot about the process, but I think that many of our peers are pretty unaware of what the UN Ocean Conference process is all about and how that translates to tangible improvements for the health of our ocean. So I think it's essential that we connect with youth by breaking the process down and making it approachable and understandable. There are many ways we can go about doing this. Social media is naturally a very obvious platform for that in terms of elevating the sustainable development goals in popular conversation. But also, I think we need to innovate how the results of UN programs are communicated, ensuring that the findings don't get locked away in a dry 50-page report, but that we utilize new tools for data visualization and interpretation that can be engaging. I think it's also important that we highlight where the outcomes of processes like this one have the potential to translate into environmental improvement or economic opportunities that directly benefit youth. As an example, the SOA is collaborating with the Rise Up Coalition to do just that. For those who don't know, the Rise Up Blue Call to Action is a credible, ambitious, and absolutely doable platform for ocean action. We've endorsed this on behalf of our network, and we recently published a blog highlighting the clear benefits for youth if governments were to really enhance their ambition and follow this platform. And likewise, we'll be hosting a webinar with the Oceano Azul Foundation's chief scientist to discuss youth and the Rise Up Blue Call to Action, and we hope that everyone here will join that conversation as well. And answering the last question of how we can mobilize youth to submit ocean commitments, I think is an easy one. We first need to recognize that youth of all ages from all parts of the globe are actively standing up for our ocean, whether recognized or registered or not. With that acknowledged, the question is how to incentivize them to register these commitments and participate in the UN Ocean process. I think the simple answer for this is to demonstrate the upside to submitting these ocean commitments. For member states, the political upside is fairly straightforward, particularly when these commitments are often highlighted during the interventions. Youth organizations and young people are more likely to respond to calls to action that can clearly offer them a way to enhance their projects. Many youth that we support are working on projects and initiatives as volunteers, and making a clear connection between registering commitments and obtaining additional resources is the most efficient way to attract buy-in. And this doesn't just mean monetary resources. It can mean mentorship, opportunities to be featured in social media campaigns, competitions to be featured as a top commitment or solution, etc. But as a demonstration of how young people will respond when their solutions are being genuinely supported, SOA recently launched the Ocean Solutions Microgrant, which gives small grants to youth-led ocean conservation projects around the world. And in spite of the current pandemic, we've received more than 140 applications from 50 countries, among which are some pretty impressive and exciting ocean solutions. So I'd like to end by highlighting the work of the Ocean Youth Forum as well, which we are organizing with the governments of Portugal and Kenya and the Oceano Azul Foundation. The forum is another fantastic way in which youth will engage with the UN Ocean Conference. Not only will 100 youth represent 100 scalable ocean solutions, all of which we hope to register as ocean action commitments, but they will also serve as engaged youth ambassadors for 100 communities from around the world. In closing, I think that asking how to mobilize young people for ocean action is an important question. But I think a more critical question might be, how do we mobilize government, civil society, and the private sector to support, to resource, and honestly, to catch up with the ongoing ocean action of young people? Again, I'm very grateful to UNDESA, the special envoys for ocean and for youth, and all of our partners here today for coming together to give youth this platform for engagement and to show by example how we can all keep up the momentum for ocean action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ron, for those wonderful contributions and comments. Finally, on this session, we have Luke Mullin, who is an activist, a filmmaker, and an environmentalist. Please, you have the floor.
All right. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you well.
All right. Perfect. Good morning, everyone. My name is Luke Mullin. I'm honored to be here today supporting SDG 14 and the upcoming Oceans Conference. So we all know that this is we're all in a difficult situation right now with COVID-19 and all of the problems that come with that. But the damage and increasing issues that our oceans are facing aren't stopping right now just because we are. We have to keep this momentum for the protection of our oceans going because our oceans are critical not just to the future health of the millions of species and ecosystems that live and depend on our oceans, but they're critical for the future health of my generation and the future generations after that. So one of the most effective ways that I believe getting my peers involved during this time is based all around social media outreach. Social media is something that I have used so much in the past couple of years, having a platform, and I think it's such a tool to spread awareness for ocean protection, especially in this time when everyone is at their homes, unable to really do much. So it's one that I have used, obviously, for the past couple of years, specifically with the oceans. And one of the main ways to mobilize through social media is in imagery. I think the Amazon fires, Australian fires, we saw mass mobilization of young people and my peers because of the devastating videos and images we saw. My generation is really it's really a visual one. We need to see it, and we need to have those graphics and those images in order to really get involved and know what's happening. Take for example Australia. They're losing the Great Barrier Reef right now at unprecedented rates, and there's nothing more gripping and engaging than watching those videos of what has become to parts of the coral reefs, and that really sticks in people's minds. And I think what this does, specifically with social media, is it creates shares, which means that there's more attention, more education, and sometimes even more money to these groups that are working on coral restoration and other forms of ocean protection. And I think another aspect in this outreach through social media, which is so important if we want to involve the youth, because the youth are my generation. We're on social media all the time. I can say from personal experience that I think we need to have other spokespersons as well that are talking about these issues, such as celebrities and other public figures that can connect with the youth and connect with my generation enough to make them really realize what is going on right now, because education is a very, very important first step. But social media really is only the first step. It's not just the shock and awe that we need right now. What we really need right now is action. So sharing and posting and learning, it's all very important, especially leading up to the Ocean Conference coming up. But the oceans are in a dire state right now, between overfishing, ocean acidification, coral depletion, so many other problems, we don't have much time. So talking and spreading awareness about the issues can only be the first step. What we really need is a clear and concise way to change the actions in our everyday lives. You know, I'm taking this from the perspective of the everyday young person scrolling through social media. So when I come across a horrible statistic of what's happening to, say, ocean acidification, I don't want to just watch it and then swipe to the next picture. There has to be a clear action that's being presented by different groups, by the UN, leading this fight and leading this discussion of how we're going to solve this. Because I'm not a scientist. I'm not even necessarily a leader, but I know the youth, and I know that we need to have a clear and accessible voice in saying, what are we going to do? And I think one of the best ways to do that is through this social media and through spreading awareness on the sites that, like this one, for example, a video conference. But we need to have this concise, compelling argument why our individual action matters. Obviously, the corporations have to change and the governments have to change in order for this to happen. But in order for actual change to be implemented, the public, and especially the youth and my peers, we have to know what to do in this situation. Because the kids aren't reading the 150-page ocean agreements that are being posted on, you know, different websites and different journals. We're reading on Instagram, we're reading on Twitter, we're watching on all these social media sites. So someone who even knows a lot about environmental policy and protection plans, I don't even have a clear answer of exactly what we should be doing. So that's why leading up to this conference, I hope that the UN and other outlets will start to create these action-oriented campaigns, not just conferences that aim to spark action, but also showing the action in our everyday lives that everyone can take part of. So, in conclusion, when all of this passes, when life resumes to normal, we're going to need to strike this crisis with everything we have, because we don't have that much time left. So in this time, I encourage the UN and everyone else to share on social media, to talk about this crisis as it is a crisis. So after we learn and we talk, and we can finally come together and act, because that's what we need right now. We need concise and accessible action. So what will that action look like? I don't have a clear answer yet. But I know that we do. I'm not the scientist, I'm not the politician, but we need to leave it up to the UN to work with the youth to bring those solutions, because we have the solutions available right now. We have all those solutions available of what we need to do to change. The only thing that I'm proposing is making it accessible and making it easily accessed by my peers, so we can all come together and it reaches everyone. Because in order for this fight to, protect our oceans, in order for it to succeed, we'll need every single person to be involved, especially my peers, because it's going to affect us the most. So thank you everyone for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Luke, and all our speakers for your forward-looking perspectives on how to mobilize youth action for the ocean. I will now hand over the floor to Naira.
Thank you so much, Kevway, and to all the speakers for this. It's really great to see, and I'm sure we are getting a lot of ideas for the summary of the session and also for to move forward. I know we are running, a little delayed on our schedule, and we are moving now to our interactive dialogue. So we have a list of speakers coming from all over the world, colleagues who have registered their interest. I'm sorry we were not able to accommodate more, and we will try to accommodate everyone that we have on our list to do so. I mean, I'm really asking those who have that I give the floor to be really short. You have no more than 2 minutes, and I'll need to cut you short if you go beyond that. I am inviting everyone to use the chat box. It's really amazing to see the level of networking and interaction that is going there. It's really, really good and positive. We will be also using and saving the chat box when we are preparing the summary. I invite the speakers from the previous sessions to take a look at the chat box because colleagues were reacting to your interventions as well. So the way we are working is I'll be announcing the 3 speakers that in order. So, the first one will come and then I'll be giving you the floor, but I'll be just saying the name of the 3 organizations so you are prepared and ready to turn on your cameras and microphones when this starts. So without further ado, and I'll be inviting you by the name of the organization that you included in the registration form. Okay, so we'll start with the 3 organizations. The first one will be Pop Ocean from Mexico, followed by Children for the Oceans from France, and then ECHO, UNESCO, and All Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassador from Ireland. So remember after you speak to turn off your microphone again. So let me start. And to all of you, thank you so much for contributing and collaborating with the microphones off. Please keep them like that. So let me invite Pop Ocean from Mexico, speaking on behalf of Pop Ocean and Plastic Oceans. You have the floor, 2 minutes. Anna, are you there?
Here. Can you see me?
Yes.
Hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'll use my 2 minutes wisely. Thank you, everyone, for giving me the opportunity to talk about Pop Ocean and Plastic Oceans Mexico. I really want to focus on the second question, which is about the good strategies to engage the youth and the leaders in the UN Ocean Conference. I think something that is very important for this is seminars and platforms so the youth can learn about actions that are being taken across the world and really implement them in their countries or their cities or their schools, because there's so much to learn from the youth across the world. I think the youth of we should have seminars in order to give proper skills and education to the youth across the world so they can learn about the interconnectedness of all environmental issues and really be able to know to have like scientific knowledge of everything that's going on in order to act effectively. And for the platforms would allow youth to learn about different actions taken and what has worked elsewhere and could work in their country as well. Through action and education and skill enforcement, the youth would also be empowered to participate more actively in policy making by pressuring the governments into really making the policies necessary to get the future we deserve and that we need as a human race. So I think education is key for the youth to start taking more action and to engage further. Also, I would like to remark on the importance of the generations working together, because on one side we have the great ideas from the youth and they're innovative and like the action they take and everything, but on the other side we have the older generations who can take more concrete action and they have the power of making decisions that have bigger impacts. So I think it's important to keep in mind that all generations need to work together. So those are my key points. I'm here on behalf of Pop Oceans and Plastic Oceans Mexico. If you would like to register for our of the forum we'll have to deepen in this point, the link is on the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Anna. So we now invite Children for the Oceans, followed by ECHO, UNESCO, and All Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassador, and then the Millennials Movement. So Children for the Oceans, you have the floor. Thomas?
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So thank you for having me here today. So dear ladies and gentlemen, I would start by emphasizing a single reality. We saw that within a couple of weeks, due to COVID-19 pandemic, all governments worldwide have taken very strong and radical measures, changing deeply our way of living. Now, even though these measures are only temporary, it has shown us that it is possible, when human beings are endangered, to change radically our way of living. It is a very clear demonstration that it is possible. We now have to convey and repeat to governments, private and public stakeholders, and the civil society that the ocean's status threatens in the same way human beings at this pandemic. This is the message that youth has to deliver. Children for the Ocean is an NGO dedicated to increase the awareness of children on the necessity to protect our ocean. Children for the Ocean gathers a community of young ocean ambassadors who go and meet children to convey a crucial message about our ocean. So how do we mobilize the youth? As founder and representative of Children for the Ocean, I call youth to continue to deliver such a message on any network. Children for the Ocean also prepares educational tools and documentation in view of organizing online awareness sessions. And most importantly, today our goal is to mobilize youth for the World Ocean Day. This day shall be considered as a very important milestone for the future of our ocean. We also call on international authorities and organizations to consider youth as real and a very effective stakeholder and partner for the protection of the ocean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Thomas. So next we have All Atlantic Ocean Youth Ambassadors from Ireland, followed by the Millennials Movement from Peru, and then Ocean Hub Africa from South Africa. So All Atlantic Ocean.
Sure, can you see and hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, great. Hello, my name is Imran. Oh, thank you. There's a delay on my end. Sorry. Thank you. My name is Emer Manning from Ireland. I'm representing the All Atlantic Youth Ambassadors. We are answering all three questions in 2 minutes. So what has become apparent to us is that people need to feel as if they're actively doing something for the planet. This can be really difficult, a sense of achievement to make when you are stuck at home. We recommend having a discussion of all of the events and activities that you would want to conduct in person to mobilize youth, and then work to find if there is a platform that would enable you to conduct that activity online. Webinars are mentioned in the concept note, and that's great, but everything is becoming a webinar now, and I promise you that young people are being invited to webinar after webinar. So you need to take a fresh look at engaging activities. At-home challenges or competitions are great, online film screenings and discussion afterwards, at-home projects, etc. We also think that it's important for you to actually publish the thoughts and feelings of young people. Young people will be more involved when they see other young people's involvement in a project. It can be very disheartening for youth voices when they're not included publicly, but instead are only included at events that are targeted specifically at youth. So quote us, ask us for opinion pieces and publish, retweet us. That is youth actively spreading a message with your support. We are so grateful for the opportunity to speak today. You can find more about us by searching for All Atlantic Youth on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And please feel free to reach out to us if you would like to discuss further ways that you can get involved with youth. We'd be so happy to help. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much, Emma, and to all for keeping the time. This is really helpful. So then I'll give the next read, the Millennials Movement from Peru, followed by Ocean Hub Africa, and then followed by Niger Delta Snapshots from Nigeria. So, Dario, you have the floor.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Hi, thank you for the opportunity from the Millennials Movement. We are very glad to be in this space. And one of the things that we have been doing in order to mobilize action was a program called Champions for the Oceans, in order to make to understand youths in schools that the pollution of the oceans most of the time take place outside the ocean. So this program encouraged them to create students' commitments that then were recognized by the principal of the schools as a school commitment in order to protect the oceans, taking actions from their school. But at this moment, it's very challenging because many schools are closed. So we need to start as young people, as a wide group of participants on the protection of the ocean. We need to be very vigilant, and we need to advocate so the decisions that are taken by our governments at this moment on the current crisis to reactivate our economies do protect the oceans. It's important to mention that these reactivations include, for instance, an escalated process. So even the delivery actions that we are starting with include the use of a lot of plastic. So we need to be sure that our decision makers and intergovernmental bodies on these kind of spaces such as the Oceans Conference can make the commitments so the decisions that are taken, such as these small ones and the wider ones, have the oceans also in the center of the policies. And we need finally in these moments also to generate advocacy with our families, friends, and communities. And that might be the hardest thing to do because this is a behavioral change. We can keep continuing cleaning the beaches, but at the same time, we need to start advocating and working from home and our other spaces where we interact in order to reduce the pollution of the oceans from the spaces where we actually interact with the nature. So we call all of the youth to take these spaces and to participate on the actions that move towards the Ocean Conference. And we invite you also to check our work on our different networks at the Millennials Movement. Thank you very much, Nayara, and thank you for this space.
Gracias, Amparo. So now we have Ocean Hub Africa, followed by Niger Delta Snapshots from Nigeria, then followed by Faculty of Fisheries and Aquaculture Science, Kafr El Sheikh University from Egypt. So the next one, Ocean Hub Africa.
Yes, I'm online. I think you can hear me. Okay, thanks for having me today. So Ocean Hub Africa is an accelerator for ocean impact startups. We're based in Cape Town, and I will just share some of my experience to answer those questions. I think this will speak a lot to Ron's intervention earlier. So we've just onboarded our first cohort of 6 startups, and what we've seen is that the entrepreneurs that we've met, amongst them, a significant part were young entrepreneurs, and they want to take ocean action. They have brilliant and innovative ideas, but they need a frame and they need support to structure, to concretize, to develop, and to scale those ideas. We need to give them access to an ecosystem, to the relevant network, to expertise, mentoring, business skills development, and funding. And I believe that by creating a mature ocean impact support ecosystem with challenges, with incubators, accelerators, and funds, SOA being part of that ecosystem, we really help those innovation develop and scale. Those support players, they work towards innovation that have the potential to create the level impact, scale, and magnitude that we need to address the crisis. And we have globally about 20 of those players that have supported more than 200 startups. So we need to keep on doing that. Additionally, I think that they play a big role in sharing the success stories and inspire more youth to get involved into SDG 14. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. So I'll say the next three ones. Niger Delta Snapshots from Nigeria, the Faculty of Fisheries and Aquaculture Science, Kafir El Sheikh University from Egypt, followed by Youth Voices for Climate Action from India. So Niger Delta Snapshots, are you on the call, Kingsley?
Yes, Kingsley Adendo is my name. I'm from Niger Delta Snapshot. I'm the project lead of Niger Delta Snapshot. Sorry, my video, I don't know, my webcam is not connecting. But first of all, I want to say social media doesn't take action. Human beings take action. So on that note, Niger Delta Snapshots, we are mobilizing support by through community engagements like appointing mangrove ambassadors, because we have an ongoing campaign which is to save Nigeria's mangrove. The aim is to ensure that young people are representative of the ocean and also the mangrove ecosystem, because that is what we have. That is what we have in our oceans in Nigeria. So our action is we have mangrove ambassadors in different riverine communities that depends on the ocean. We've also developed sustainable livelihoods for them in the face of COVID-19, because a lot of them can't engage in economic activities. So we're developing an oyster farm for these communities in the riverine areas that depends on the ocean. And also the aim of that is to make sure that they exploit the ocean in a sustainable manner. You have the news all over the world where we have fishes washed up the oceans, the seashores in Bonny Island, in Bayelsa State, and different parts of Nigeria. So our aim is to ensure that these people exploit the ocean sustainably. And also the other strategies that we would suggest leading up to the UN conference is that we create an online forum, not just posting on social media. We create an online forum for the youth to engage in expressing the challenges unique to their own ocean environment. And not just doing that, the goal is to find sustainable solutions that will help these youths and their communities to utilize the resource of the ocean. And then lastly, we are mobilizing ocean action by what I mentioned earlier, mangrove ambassadors in our communities. For some areas, it might be something else, but there should be youth that have a commitment to the ocean, which they would take back to the people in the grassroots, because these are the people, the coastal communities, the island communities. These are the people that own the oceans, and these are the people that are the custodians. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kingsley. So I'll be listing again: Faculty of Fisheries and Aquaculture Science, Kafir El Sheikh University, followed by Youth Voices for Climate Action, and then Ocean Bridge Program. So Faculty of Fisheries and Aquaculture Science, are you there? Khaled?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, everyone.
Trust. It's not NGO leaders, it's not government, it's not the UN, it's people in their community, it's their doctors, their friends.
Hello,
someone
everyone.
Yes, we can hear you,
I
Khaled.
hope you are doing well, regardless of where you are. Now, you must exactly. I think young people can support global number 14 by localization or implementing concepts related to it. But question remains: what are the best plans currently for young people before the conference? We be integrate the role of youth, especially in society, taking into consent accounting gender equality. Their role is announced to the conference, networking, and launch of awareness campaign. And finally, there should be a vision for the future sustainability after Corona pandemic. As we know, community and offering in home lead to return of to life, and once again, and due to a lack of human activities and less pollution. and we should benefit from that. Thanks to give me this chance, and I'm pleasure to join this webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Khaled. So we'll have the next three ones: Youth Voices for Climate Action from India, Ocean Bridge Program from Canada, Earth Echo International from USA. So Youth Voices for Climate Action, you have the floor.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Hello.
we can hear you, Ahmad.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. As I want to tell that there are more than 2.2 million species in the ocean. And to protect this, we have to stop our greed for horrific and yet economic development for us. Like seismic testing has been done to find oil in ocean since long, which is killing marine life with contagious pitches. The youth will have to understand this pandemic that this is not about the survival of the fittest or richest. It is about how we are treating our oceans. After a decade in India, Ganga River water is suitable for drinking, and that water is considered as holy since ages. Pandemic has provided some, I think, pandemic has provided some peace for the world ocean. Even turtles are racing into the sea for like empty beaches. They usually wait for the dark to escape, but in this pandemic, they are brave to come out in daylight because we humans are in lockdown. Now we have to decide whether we want marine life, exotic marine life in our platters, throwing garbage and chemical waste in oceans, or we have to stop this culture right now. For this, we need to stop, and youth have to come forward to contribute in sustainable blue economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ahmad. So our next three speakers and the last one's Ocean Bridge Program from Canada, followed by Earth Echo International, USA, and Blue Cradle from New Zealand. So Ocean Bridge Program, you have the floor.
Hi, can you hear me? Hi. So, hi everyone, my name is Nadia, and I am an Ocean Bridge Ambassador for OceanWise Canada. I am one of many youth across Canada taking part in promoting ocean literacy and action. Despite the current global pandemic, youth are on the forefront of ocean action. How, you may ask? By staying connected through social media and using it as a platform for local and international change. When many of our events would normally be held in person, we are now finding ways to plan events that are in line with public health guidelines. These events may include individual garbage cleanups in our communities, ocean-themed virtual movie screenings, webinars, book clubs, art competitions, you name it, the list can go on. As youth, we have the capacity and know-how to use the online world to our advantage and promote ocean action now more than ever. However, we are also aware of disengagement with youth and the online world. Some strategies to engage youth for ocean action and leading up to the UN conference can include creating or utilizing current local and national online communities where youth can chat and exchange resources and promote events, have fun and engaging content geared to youth that promote diversity and inclusion, ensure that youth have the financial means of accessing computers, internet, and a secure place to live and work, engage with youth on a weekly basis to keep them motivated, and provide opportunities for youth to get involved in short and long-term projects. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak today, and I encourage you all to go to bridge.ocean.org to learn more about how youth in Canada are creating ocean action. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Nadia. So the following, Earth Echo International, followed by Blue Cradle. So Earth Echo International.
Thanks so much, and thank you all for the time today. My name is Shaun Russell. I'm the Associate Director of Youth Engagement and Partnerships at Earth Echo International. I'm so thrilled to be part of the session with you all today. Earth Echo was founded on the belief that youth have the power to change our planet. And through our programs, we've reached more than 2 million people in 146 countries, providing original content, immersive experiences, and resources to empower young people to become leaders and problem solvers in their communities and around the world, with a specific focus on ocean health, water quality, and biodiversity. Currently, our Earth Echo Youth Leadership Council is preparing to onboard a new class of international members who will collaborate virtually to lay a strong foundation for their work in the year ahead, focused on mobilizing their peers to take action in support of marine protected areas and through youth-led coastal habitat restoration initiatives. Our network of youth leaders continues to stress the importance of community, especially during this time. And in advance of the UN Ocean Conference, we see value in additional virtual networking sessions and informal dialogues, allowing youth leaders to identify opportunities for collaboration to amplify their collective work. This is something our team and our Youth Leadership Council would be happy to support, along with all of the organizations represented on this call. Finally, when accepting online submissions for ocean action commitments from youth and youth-focused organizations, we recommend creating a media toolkit and resources to help organizations highlight their actions as a part of the UN Ocean Conference network. Additionally, by requesting and amplifying personal videos and stories from youth leaders involved in making these commitments, we can bring this work to life in a compelling way that inspires further actions. Again, we so appreciate the opportunity to be part of this dialogue today and look forward to continuing these conversations and connecting with all of you as we amplify youth leadership through the conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shaun. So the last one, and I'm sure, I know we are running out of time, and I'm sorry we won't be able to accommodate more. I invite everybody, if you have anything to contribute, anything to share, use the chat box. We still have a few minutes to go. Blue Cradle, New Zealand, you have the floor.
Thank you, Nayara. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
can.
can.
You hear me? Yeah, okay. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Excellencies, colleagues, friends, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for the opportunity for being here. Kia ora, my name is James Nicotine. I'm a marine scientist. I'm the founder of Blue Cradle, a new organization that works showcasing ocean health impact solutions through storytelling and inspiring science documentaries, educating on the regenerative blue economy and ocean literacy from New Zealand and beyond. With knowledge comes caring, and with caring comes impactful change through investment. So working from a zero-emission sailboat, Blue Cradle brings together an interdisciplinary team working on 3 streams: a research program, an educational program, and a digital outreach program, building partnerships with scientific institutions, startups, but also broadcasters. Our aim is to communicate widely on these impact solutions, promoting young scientists, young entrepreneurs, and ultimately young human beings that are working to solve some of the world's greatest challenges with the ocean. Some of the projects are related to sustainable fishing, aquaculture, energy, biotechnology, big data, marine conservation, nature-based solutions, but they all share one thing in common. They're all led by passionate individuals who understand the importance of our Blue Cradle. We will launch a digital platform that will give visibility to these projects, reaching wide audiences, and will publish a best practice handbook that will inventory these solutions. If you're interested in joining us, please visit the bluecradle.org website and get in touch. The ocean is our cradle, so let's return to it. Tēnā koutou, thank you.
Thank you so much, James, and thanks to all the speakers and to all who registered to speak. I know we are running out of time, and unfortunately, we need to close the session. So I would like to invite again Ambassador Peter Thompson, our Special Envoy on Ocean, for his final remarks, and then we will be closing this call. Ambassador Thompson, are you online? Can we hear from you now?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Ambassador.
Great. Well, look, it's been fantastic. I've really learned a lot this afternoon. I've got a new ambition in life. I want to be a mangrove ambassador. And I was also listening to the envoy from Ireland about the alternatives to webinars. I'm not saying that I've got webinar burnout, but I find that I'm spending all my days either preparing for or participating in webinars. So yeah, there are lots of other ways we can do our business. And I do accept that comment that we've actually got to get out there and do the real work as well. And that, as I said before, is the light at the end of the tunnel. Look, when you get to a grand old age like me, the one thing you do have that you didn't have when you're young is perspective on the course of life. And the one thing I can say to you is that change is a constant. If you just keep that as your mantra, you will never get bored, even in a lockdown, because things are changing all the time. I am sitting in a room in London at the moment, have done for the last 3 months, a very rare thing for me to do. But as I look around, I realize that this room was full of horses 100 years ago. And when you're an old guy like me, 100 years is not very long. 100 years ago, this room and all of the rooms at ground level for miles around were full of horses. And in a space of very short time, that changed. The saddles were gone, the horses were gone, the carriages were gone, and then came the internal combustion engine. I'll tell you another thing. My great-great-grandfather arrived in Fiji in a wooden sailing ship when ships were powered by sail. It didn't take long after he was there for the steam age to come in, and we've been suffering the pollution from internal combustion ever since. But, you know, people come to think that that is the way it'll always be. It is not. I am absolutely convinced that we are on the cusp of a real paradigm shift in this world. And I can give you practical examples. I don't have enough time this afternoon, but I point you in the direction, for example, of greening of shipping. All the people that I talk to, whether they're scientists or shippers or even from the oil companies, are saying that, yes, we are ready to change the global shipping fleet to be powered by green hydrogen stroke ammonia, which, as you know, is totally non-polluting and requires only the power of the sun to create the ammonium to power our global shipping fleet. And that'll do away with the dirtiest kind of fossil fuel there is, which is bunker fuel. That's an example. Offshore aquaculture, I'm convinced, is going to take the place of hunting down wild stock fish. And we will get new forms of food from the ocean as well. We can look at so many different ways that this vast liquid area of the planet, 70% of the world of the planet, the space of the planet, can provide us with new food forms, algae-based, seaweed-based, plankton-based. I am absolutely sure that these changes are just around the corner. We already know that offshore wind can produce more than all the energy that we need on the planet, and is fast taking the place of fossil-based fuels in terms of the economic justification for it. So change is coming, folks. Don't imagine that we're stuck in some rabbit hole which you never get out of, not at all. So all of your efforts are so important. You know, young people, as I said when we started out in this meeting, young people, it's your future. You've got to grab it, but you've also got to create it. You've got to speak up and make sure that you don't give deference to those who, because they're older like me, think that they've got all the answers. Well, I don't think I've got all the answers, actually. I think you guys have. So speak up, be part of the process. I look forward to seeing you, or at least listening to you at the Virtual Ocean Dialogues coming up in the first week of June. But more than that, I really look forward to meeting many of you when we get to Lisbon for the UN Ocean Conference, once those days for the conference are set. And so to all of you, you know, none of your efforts are wasted. And all around the world, I say, you know, be ocean activists. There's nothing better that you can do. We cannot have a healthy planet without a healthy ocean. So more power to all of you. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Thompson, and also for being the leadership behind all those ideas, including the idea of this webinar. We are now closing the webinar. I just want to give a huge thanks to Ambassador Thompson and the permanent representatives from Portugal and Kenya, as well as our speakers, the ones that make the interventions, to all our participants who really supported in making this webinar work. And finally, I really need to be thankful to all the partners who support and worked with us, collaborated with us in putting this webinar together. So let me mention then again, the Office of the Secretary General's Envoy on Youth, the United Nations Non-Governmental Liaison Service, UNNGLS, the Major Group for Children and Youth, and Sustainable Ocean Alliance. So on behalf of UNDESA, thank you so much, and big thanks to Ellery, to Ariel, and other colleagues who have been working and supporting on this. Just heard some echo. So just a reminder, We will be sending you the link to the recording, to the PowerPoint, and everything will be posted on the Ocean Conference website. I invite you to keep checking that website, because there are always updates, and there'll be more information about the next Keep the Momentum series. Thank you again. Good day, and see you soon. Bye.